Welcome to the Getting High on Leadership series featuring Paul Karasik. Paul is one of America's top management consultants helping leaders succeed. He is the author of 9 books, including Sweet Persuasion and Brilliant Thoughts and Provocative Questions. His insights appear regularly in major publications, and he is one of the most sought-after executive coaches. Paul founded the American Seminar Leaders Association and the Psychedelic Institute of Los Angeles. He is a popular speaker at national conferences and has been on stages across all 50 states and internationally. Paul's work addresses the question, how can we transform conflict in business into collaboration? With decades of experience in management, leadership, and psychedelics, he brings a unique perspective on personal and societal growth. In this series, we'll be discussing his latest book, Getting High on Leadership, The Leader's Guide to Higher Consciousness. We'll be exploring the concepts, techniques, and mindset required to revolutionize leadership. Enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Getting High on Leadership series. My name is Rob Sanchez, your host for the show, and we are joined by Paul Karasik, who's the author of Getting High on Leadership, and he's breaking down his book section by section with us throughout the series. Today, we're looking at the section called Finding the Key, which is on page 48. If you would like to follow along with us, the link below will take you to the ebook, or you could also get a physical copy. Paul, welcome, man, and man, where is this key? Why can't we find it?
Right. Yeah. Well, the story here is, I think, says it all. You know, man looking for the key, and the solution had to do with where he was looking. And you know, this is a theme that we're getting all through this particular program, which is where the solutions are. And we talked a little bit about in the last chapter about where the solutions are. And it's the same here. This is just kind of a anecdotal story to reinforce what we're talking about. I mentioned it earlier, but I want to re-emphasize it again, is the need to stop looking, and to stop looking to others, but to look to ourselves. There's a wonderful gospel song, which I love, and we always sang it with my kids since they were real young. It's called Nobody's Fault But Mine. And it's a really old kind of gospel song. Nobody's fault but mine. Well, it's nobody's fault but mine. If I die and my soul should fall, you know it's nobody's fault but mine. And that's the chapter here. The chapter is about looking inward, and stop looking for gurus, and stop looking for spiritual texts, and stop looking for new age solutions, and to just stop, completely stop. Stop looking externally. There's one thing to read something, to observe something, to watch a YouTube or whatever the case may be, to get educated on technical things. Right. I do it every day. I want to get better at all the things I do technically. And there's no problem with that. But when it comes to finding the key to our spiritual problems, our emotional problems, our mental problems, the key is within us. It's not outside. And it's one of the things that really upsets me, that people continually look to the psychiatrist, to the psychologist, to the guru, to the next new age quick fix, breathing exercises, what's the new ones? Ice baths. What are they called? Cold plunge.
I have seen way too many people full of themselves sitting in ice. And much respect if you sit in ice. I'm not trying to turn you away from the show, but maybe it doesn't need to be on social media. If that's the reason why you're sitting in ice.
So you can put it on, say, look, I'm in ice cold water. You know, the external will never bring solutions to the internal. That's just a fact. And if you want to find the key, you've got to look to where you lost it. And where did you lose it? That's what this chapter is about. You lost it very early on when you began to identify with your ego mind self. That's where you lost it. Because when you look in a baby's eyes, you see infinity. You see they're not identified when a baby's born with their name. They have to be taught that, then they're given a name. We lost it when we were given a name. We can say, that's who I am. I am Paul. I was born in Bayonne, New Jersey, in this year, in this hospital. I grew up with these parents. I'm identifying myself. That's with this entity that is completely made up. It's completely it's an idea. It's a concept. Right? I mean, that's what it is. And that's where the problem began. The problem began because we said, oh, I'm not this infinite being. All of a sudden I came out, I'm this little baby, and I'm this infinite being stuck in this body and just enjoying it for what it is. And what is it? Yeah. Well, it's a lot of immersion in the external world. What do I mean by that? A baby, if it's wet, it cries. If it's hungry, it asks for food, it cries, whatever the case may be. It's responding to the sensorial environment it's in. It doesn't have a name. It's just a responder, a responder to what's going on. And now we begin to say, oh, that's who I am. I'm that entity. So we lost the key in this chapter. When you write way back then, that's you. That the belief that was you, that's where you lost the key.
So you looking for it in any new technique, or looking for it now and ignoring that aspect of where you actually lost it, ignoring the reality of the situation.
Yeah,
and trying to find a new answer is really almost a past. Like you've almost given yourself a pastime, maybe something to take your mind off of truly finding the answer by looking for it in the wrong place.
Yeah, you're just wasting time. You bring up some good points, Rob, and that's, this delusion that you're somebody that doesn't exist. And how do we know that? Because one day you're going to die. And when you die, that delusion is gone. The delusion that Rob really even existed, or Paul really existed. I'm not going to propose what goes on after we die in this chapter.
We'll save that for another podcast series.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, I'm not sure if it's even relevant, but but to some degree, we have to say, where did we lose the key? We have to say, if I was that infinite consciousness, able to observe that smaller self, as we've talked about, where do I lose it? And I lost the key way back when. And now I'm judging myself on how that particular entity that was made up is performing. So I'm acting, and I'm a judge of that activity, and I'm criticizing it. And I think that's what life is that process of identifying with the smaller self and living from that smaller self. We have to go back and understand that that's embedded, that's wired in now, that's who we think we are. And again, not try to change it like in a forceful way. If you're using effort, what we're talking about doesn't work, because all effort stems from the smaller self. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right.
Because presence doesn't need effort. Consciousness is beyond effort. Consciousness is. It is. It doesn't. There's no effort in it. So if I'm coming from trying, from efforting, from making a change, then it can't work. And that is where most people look for the key. They look in the wrong place. And so in this chapter, we want to say, look, if you're looking for the solution, don't look for that wired in place. You're not going to find it. And so people keep trying to fix itself, and a broken machine can't fix itself. And then people get frustrated and nothing happens because the mind keeps coming back, and people do awful things. They get addicted to substances, alcohol, in worst case scenarios.
Kind of using that as their solution. It's after not finding one for so long.
Well, well, how can I create that space? How can I see the source of my problems, and that's my thinking. And drugs can really do a great job. And I have to add in this little piece here that a lot of these spiritual solutions can be used that way too, incorrectly. Right? I mean, things like meditation, in some ways, is not observational. It's doing. And so meditation has benefits, but does it really take us to that next level if we're engaged in a process? I'll repeat that, as long as we're engaged in a process, we're coming from the ego. If it's pure observation, then no, there's no ego there. We're observing the ego. We're observing the mind. It's a completely different type of analysis, in effect, because it's not really analyzing. It's just being present for what is. So just to wrap on this chapter, Rob, let's understand that oftentimes we go to solutions that are mind-based. They don't work, and then we're frustrating. So this chapter has an important meaning. Look for those psychological solutions through observation, not technique, through pure observation, and specifically observe your wired-in patterns, your wired-in responses to everything. I see that in myself every day. When my assistant comes to me with something and I'm upset, I'll just respond to it. Oh, da 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 da, and be upset by it. Well, that could have gone a different way that I would have liked better. Just to see that pattern. Just to see that pattern.
Right.
Just to see that pattern. Just to, how many times can I touch the hot stove before I don't want to touch the hot stove anymore? Just see it. Just see it. Just keep seeing it. And after a while, you go, nah, I'm not touching that stove. I notice with a lot of my addictive behavior, things that that I'd like to improve in myself, it always begins with those thoughts. And those thoughts are like a string, and one leads to the next. And then soon I'm in this, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't pay the rent. I'm dead tomorrow.
Just
I have an ache in my
fast.
Yeah, I have an ache in my knee, and 2 minutes later I'm going for an amputation in my mind. This is the end of my life, and I'm losing my leg, and it's like you start to see the insanity so clearly, and
just like seeing that man look for the key where the light is better, not where he dropped it.
Yeah. Yeah, the light is better because we're so familiar with that small self that we've always gone to the small self for solution. And the small self works great. If we're writing a song or writing a book, or, we come from that place a lot of just experience, and we bring that to the table. But I want to encourage everybody to look for the psychological key based in the fact that you need to look under the right light.
Yes. Yeah. Well put, Paul. And thank you for the enlightening conversation here. Thank you to our listeners and viewers. Thanks for following us along on this journey. Join us in the next episode. And don't forget, you can grab the book down below. There's a link in the show notes where you can find a physical copy. And we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Getting High on Leadership series. If you have any questions, you can comment below or send them in via email to paul@paulkarasik.com. Follow him on Instagram at PK_the conversation. Find out more at wholesalerinstitute.com and psychedelic-awakening.com. The Getting High on Leadership series is produced by Rob Sanchez and Apartment 113, which can be found at apartment113.com and followed on Instagram at APT_113.